Out here doing a little bit of wintertime jerk baiting. Water temps are in the 40s, actually low 40s. But we're getting out here and throwing a variety of jerk baits today. Starting fishing some 45-degree angle banks, riprap, that kind of stuff, and already have caught 3 nice keepers on some transitions off those 45-degree banks into a little bit flatter banks. This is December time frame, so it's just now the water temperatures are dropping, getting down into those low 40s, and the jerk baits are really hard bait to beat when they're doing that. The shad this time of year are starting to get a little stunned as that water temperature gets down into the 40s. The bait fish start to get real lethargic, do a lot of stopping and starting. That's why jerkbait is so effective. The fish know that the cold weather's coming, the feeding opportunities are getting less. So they are looking to feed, but they're just not looking to chase and move a lot. So that's why this bait's going to be so effective. So we'll give it a try today and see how it goes.
I got him. Yeah, I got one on the jerkbait. Wasn't much to him. I just kind of pulled into him. Look at him fight. I think it's a smallmouth, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't see real good. I couldn't really tell. He's digging a lot. It's white. That mold shadow wrap shad. Of course, the water's out here is pretty cold. You see, that's one thing. A lot of times when that you know, he hit it when the jerkbait was sitting perfectly still. I'll have to get the pliers to get him out. And he hit the bait when it wasn't moving. You can see I just kind of pulled the bait into him. And lassoed now. As you can see, a nice keeper bass on the deep running shadow wrap shad. And the water's about 40. Oh, Jason's got one too. But not a bad bass out here. 45-degree water, cold day. Jason's got another one. His ain't quite as big as mine. He'll have to hold it closer to the camera. A brown bass. Little guy. A lot of our fish today have come where we get on a steep bank, 45 degrees or even steeper, and then it starts to taper off into the flatter part of the bank. Seems like that's where a lot of the fish have been today. So that's a little thing about fishing this time of year. There's little small sections. It seems, you know, the banks all seem the same, but there'll be little small sections that you'll start to pattern the fish are always on those little transitions. That's one of the new Japan LTD custom colors for the Mega Bass Edovision. That's the Pro Table Rock color. It's been pretty good. It's my first day ever actually throwing it. So pretty impressed with it. Throwing it on 10-pound fluorocarbon. Nothing too fancy, just a rod, medium rod, 6-10 rod. And fishing a lot of places this time of year. For me, it's not about being on one little stretch of bank. It's about fishing a bunch of banks that are similar, and if you can catch a handful of bass off of each little stretch, then you'll have a pretty good day. So that's basically what we're doing here today.
One put of water on the swing. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're carp or they're bass or they're drums. There was one. I felt him jump my line. Now he was way on out here, a little bit farther, and I actually felt him thump the line. I actually felt the tap. I don't know, it feels better. He's a little better. Yeah, it's not a bad one, but boy, this water is so cold. right now. This water is so cold. Now he was on out off the swing here, kind of on the lip of the break of the ledge, and you know, this water is so cold. I actually felt him tap it, and look at him just kind of wallow around with that shadow wrap in his mouth. Get down here. Get the hands on.
Almost for the GoPro because you've been stressing.
See, he hit that bait. Looks like he hit it head first when it was stopped. And I actually, that time I jerked it down and I stopped the bait. Look, he's feeding up. It's winter time, first day of winter out here. Nice big fat healthy bass. And since I've gone to the shadow wrap deep, I've had a lot more bites. So the fish are down in the water column, but all the bass are hitting it on the stop or the pause. And I'm letting it pause not real long, about 2 to 4 seconds, even in this 41-degree water. So I don't think a lot of times you have to let a jerkbait sit a long time, but it does help. This shadow wrap gently, after you jerk it and it rolls, it'll gently sink. And that's when those bass are hitting it, when it just looks like a dying shad. You know, we've just had some of the coldest weather here in 2 years. And, you know, we're probably starting to get a little bit of a shad kill. And this looks like a dying shad falling to the bottom on that pause, but not a bad bass. See you, buddy. See you in May.
Last two big good. All right. Big thing is big, yeah. Wow.
Got him hooked in the head. I've run all around the boat chasing him. I'm trying to play me easy. I got this blue jerkbait rod. It's real wide. Got this one on 10-pound Sussex mono on the shadow wrap. Man, this fish here fighting like the water 65 degrees. And the wind's blowing.
It's got its mouth closed. That's why you can fight so hard.
Yeah. Now this is going to be fun. Trying to figure out how to get him in the cold weather. And he's kind of blind in one eye. Oh boy. Ah, I got him. Got him. Finally, chased him around the boat 19 times. And I had him right in the top of the head. Which is, you know, you get this cold water and those fish, you know, all the bites are coming while the jerkbait is setting still. You know, and they're just kind of coming up and swiping at it. And man, you know, I caught 2 bass down this bank, one on the shallow running shadow wrap and one on the deep running. And, you know, look how pretty that bass is. His fins are a little warm. Starting to feed up for the winter. What a great looking bass out here on a cold December day on Kentucky Lake. So. Oh, here, you got a limb. Oh, you got an A-rig too, I think. No? And an A-rig. And an A-rig. You got an A-rig, piece of a tree, broke. There's one right there. Lay in front of the GoPro. That was a good one right there. I felt him. I stopped it. When I stopped it, I felt him bite it. Lethargic little old dude. Actually, I felt him hit it too. Actually, he kind of came up there and now he just got it by the back hook. Look at him shaking his head down there. Cold little old bass. There again, you know, just about every bass so far, you know, has hit that bait on the dead stop. As you can see, you know, they're getting the bait really well. This cold water. Those hooks are sticky. Not a bad bass. Not a bad one. Well, that's like 5 or 6 bites we've had down this bank. So, you know, and a lot of times this time of year, fish will gang up on these channel swings and on these banks. So we're probably going to make several passes up and down this bank because I don't think the fish are moving real far to bite the bait. So you got to attack it at a lot of different angles. So we'll probably spend a little time here. Plus it's kind of warm, it's in the sun, and it's out of the wind a little bit. Got it? Dang it! Wow. I broke it. Damn it.
No, it broke. Broke the shoe. I got one on jerkbait. I got one on jerkbait. Having camera difficulties. There you go.
Really? Oh, God. There's one.
I saw that.
Boy, did you see him run the slack out of the line? I was just sitting there still, and I just seen the slack just run it out. Old lethargic fish. He hit it on the dead stop. I can't tell how big he is. I think he's a pretty good one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
a nice one.
That's a nice one. You know, 41 degrees. They don't bite. They don't fight real hard. Oh yeah, that's a nice one.
That's a chunk. And tell talk about we've been up and down this bank 4 or 5 times.
You know, we've been up and down this bank 4 or 5 times. You know, and that's another thing. When this cold weather, you know, when you find find a bank such as this, you know, you just kind of go back and forth because what these fish are doing, they're laying out here. This boat's sitting in 27 feet of water, and right here is where that little swing starts, and it just barely makes a little lip, kind of like the edge of the gunnel of this boat.
Show me the fish first.
And these fish are just gradually moving up out of that deep water onto that lip throughout the day to get them a bite to eat. And so whenever you find something like this, you can sit here for hours and go up and down it just fishing real slow, and you can catch a number of bass, you know, and just stay in one location. You know, this is probably our 4th pass up this bank, you know, and we've probably caught our limit already and several short fish, and you know, this is probably one of the biggest fish, you know, even after 4 or 5 passes. So, you know, the fish are really cold this time of year. See if I can get him. I've got him sewn shut. That's one thing about these BMC light wire hooks. They're real sticky. And like I said, you know, all I did was when that fish ran the slack out of the bait, and all I did was pull right into him. I can't even get him I keep hooking him more and more. Nice fat healthy bass. 41 degrees on a shadow wrap, a deep shadow wrap jerkbait on the paws.
Got me one. Another one on that deep shadow wrap shad. That's what we found today. Is the water's cold. For whatever reason, they're not up there shallow like they were a week or so ago. They've moved out a little deeper, and you're having to get down to them. That shadow wrap shad that bait actually sinks. You know, you jerk it, and then it kind of has a real slow sink. So if you let it sit there 4 or 5 seconds, it'll actually get down 4 or 5 feet deeper. So you can get down there and fish it down 15, 20 foot of water. But that one, again, seems like right after you jerk it, you twitch, and they jump on it. It's like they're looking at it, they see it move, and they grab it. So, we're not letting the bait sit there very long. I've never really been a proponent of letting a jerkbait sit there for 10 seconds, especially one that sinks a little bit. 4 or 5 seconds is really all you need, and then go to snatching again. And that's how we've caught all the fish today. So we've caught almost a dozen or so fish, keepers, non-keepers. So we're just going back and forth on these channel swing banks and picking up 1 or 2 on every pass. So get after it again.
That's a little better one there. He actually hit it on the stop, and that's right in there where I just missed that fish. Actually, that's actually a better fish than those first 2. Like I said, that's a much better fish. But look how he's just barely wallowing around that shadow wrap in his mouth. So this water's 41 degrees right now. You know, these fish are awful cold, and I'm awful cold. And he's got that bait sideways, and I had just missed a bite right there, the cast before, and threw it back up there, and I never felt him bite. He hit that bait on the stop, and like I said, I just pulled back into him, and that's a nice bass. Nice fish. But I just had a bite. I felt one jump my line or tick my line and caught that fish right there. It's cold. 41 degrees out here this morning. I'm cold, he's cold, but not a bad one. You can catch bass in cold water a lot of times. You just got to be patient. You know, we had a really successful day today, considering it's the first day of winter here in December, and we were fishing in 41 to 44 degree water. And you know, used to, I didn't like to fish a jerkbait, but you know, since Rapla's come out with the shadow wrap, you know, this bait has really changed my jerkbait fishing. I mean, it's the action that it has, the way it darts side to side, and it's got that slow sinking action like a dying shad in the winter. My jerkbait fishing the last couple of years has just really improved, and you know, you know, we've got a shallow and a deep shadow wrap, and you know, and I kind of use these 2 baits just depending on the type of bank I'm on. If I'm on a shallower, flatter bank, I'll use the shallow. But today, on those channel swings, those fish were down a little deeper. Most all those fish, I jerked the bait, and this bait has a really tight turn when you jerk the slack in the line, so you don't really move the bait. It stays in the strike zone. And when that bait stops, it slowly starts to sink like a dying shad. And you know, we've just come out of some of the coldest days we've had here in 2 years. So we're probably starting to get some die-off from shad. But the shadow wrap deep, I was fishing that on a Lew's jerkbait rod and a new Lew's Team Custom Pro reel and a 7-to-1 and 12-pound Suffix fluorocarbon. And this bait with 12-pound fluorocarbon just gently sinks down. And today, every fish that I caught was on the pause. And some of them I did feel them bite, and I'd feel the tick or see them run the slack out of the line, or I would just, when I'd go to jerk again, they'd be on there. And that's one thing about this rod. It's got a really soft tip, and it helps you fight the fish, and you don't move the bait as far, especially in this cold water. So that was a big key to today's success, was that shadow wrap deep, because I could get down there to that 5, 6, 8 foot of water where those fish were sitting, and I could pause it, and they couldn't resist it.